Hey folks, Rue here. Just wanted to let you know that this episode of Ruel's Running Podcast is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get a special life insurance rates. I don't know why I said especial, but Health IQ can save customers up to 33% because physically active people have a 56% lower risk of heart disease, 20% lower risk of cancer, and 58% lower risk of diabetes compared to people who are inactive. So, what does that mean? It means later on in the show, I'll tell you a little bit more, but just feel rest assured that Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like yourself. You know, you, the runner, the cyclist, the strength trainer, you know, the acrobat, the gymnast, somebody who's just active and, takes care of themselves. You know, they want to take that data into consideration so that you can maximize your life insurance buying capabilities. That's the way I'm going to put it, and I'm sticking to it. And remember, to see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/RUEL. That's healthiq.com/RUEL, or mention the promo code RUEL. That's RUEL when you talk to a Health IQ agent. On with the show.
Podcasting from somewhere in the San Francisco Bay Area, the birthplace of Bruce Lee, the iPhone, and the bendy straw. This is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
There was a dream a million miles away. There was fire in
Amazon.com. You know, I won't be surprised if more and more stuff that I shop for, buy, and get shipped to my home comes from Amazon. It's just a reality, right? And if this is your reality, go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon banner to get to Amazon. Why am I asking you to do so? Well, it is a no-cost-to-you way. If you like listening to Ruel's Running Podcast, it is a way that you can help the show out without spending more than you've already spent while shopping at the good folks at Amazon.com. So help us out. Go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon.com site, and shop, connect, and enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast. How are you doing? I'm your host, Ruel Abadam. If you are a new listener, welcome. If you are a return listener, welcome as well. Glad to have you back. Hey everybody, this is going to be an interesting episode. I've kind of held off of doing this particular episode for a while, so I still have a lot to talk about regarding it, the topic. The experience, the subject, as you can tell from the title, it is basically my run report, my race report, the trail event episode for the Chabot trail run, and I guess to kick off, I will talk about a bit about the event. It was a 50K trail race. It's also called the Lake Chabot Redtail Ridge. And there are several races going on in the event. The 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, the 30K, and the 50K. I signed up for the 50K, and that happened back in February 17. Right off of the website, their race info describes it as Lake Chabot Regional Park was established in the 1960s after the reservoir had been closed to recreational use for 91 years. Today, the lake remains as an emergency water supply and is open to fishers and boaters as it is filled with trout, catfish, bass, crappie, and other fish.
With eucalyptus forests, grassy meadows, lakeside paths, and hilltop vistas, Lake Chabot offers over 20 miles of hiking trails, which connect to the additional 70 miles of trails in adjoining Anthony Chabot Regional Park, making it a spectacular place to run and also very accessible. It also goes on to say here that this is one of our meaning the InsideTrail.com website. This is one of our faster races with less elevation and some paved sections. The course is designed for those who are looking to PR and those who are less competitive and or just embarking on trail racing. And the 50K is noted here to be 31.6 miles with 4,800 feet of elevation gain. And that's that. It's at the starts off at the Lake Chabot Marina, and that is over in Castro Valley, California. So only several minutes away from where I live, in that part of Northern California. It is an event that I did last year. And last year's event, if you go back in a past episode, I go on to describe the experience, and it had been a very, very wet event. I was going to say a very wet year, but I don't run a whole year's worth over this. But the event on that day was really wet. A lot of mud, a lot of running water. And last year I came in dead last. I beat the cutoff. It was an 8.5 hour cutoff. I chased the cutoff by several minutes, maybe 12 minutes. So that was that. And so I encourage you to check that out if you are interested in what I had to say about the race event then. All right. So where did my notes go? Oh, here you go. So again, I signed up for the 50K race, and as mentioned many times in this episode, I've gone 50K before. I'm new to trail events. I'm new to doing the races and chasing cutoffs and whatnot. This 2018 is going to be the second year of doing it. 2017 was the first year where I started signing up for these events. Prior to that, I had done several, I call them solo missions, solo runs.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Several times I've gotten as far as 40 miles. A couple of failed 50-mile attempts on a solo effort, and basically wrapped it up around 42, 41 miles. And that's just sort of where I've come from. Why do I want to run these things? I like testing my ability to go out for as long as time permits, and to be able to do that is, to me, a great way to stress my body and stress my mind. And it's enough stress, and the duration is pretty long. You're talking about, like, this last event was 8.5 hours, right? So it's a significant chunk of the day. So it's a significant lengthy test. It's also lengthy in a way that in order to participate in this activity, at least for me, I gotta go in it not balls out, not wrecking myself, over the edge. So what does that mean? To me, it means that this is something that I can do repeatedly. I can sustain this for a while, for as long as I'm able to, and I envision myself doing this well past my 40s, well past my 50s, as long as I'm good and healthy. And at this effort, this way, I feel that I could do that. Now, if I did other things like, I did martial arts for a long time, and I love the martial arts. But if I did it in a competitive way, meaning if I actually got into fights,
I don't know that I'd be able to sustain that for a good number of years. If you look at other activities that are pretty brutal, in boxing, mixed martial arts, in the from amateur and professional level, even football and other sports where the contact is pretty traumatic, that takes a toll. So this is just me out in the outdoors and just putting one foot in front of the other. It can get exhausting and it can be frustrating when you know that you're chasing a cutoff. And you can have a lot of negative thoughts going through your mind that gives you every reason to stop. And that happened in this last event. I told myself a lot of times that I was going to call it quits. But the bad thing and the good thing about doing this type of thing is once you're in it, and you're in it, smack dab in the middle of a 30-mile trail run, you can't just say, depends on how the course is outlined. You can't just say, I'm going to go in, 6 miles into it, 9 miles into it, and then decide, nah, I'm done. I'm going to call it quits, and then think that you're going to be whisked away, right? If it was a looped course, sure, you could just kind of step off the course and be done with it and call it a day. But here you get out in the wilderness, and you climb and you descend, and then if you have that thought, you're like, wait a minute, if I'm going to call it quits now, I'm not quitting because I still have to do the run or the walk or the hike out of this canyon or out of this situation. So it's good because it forces you to just keep plowing through, and it's bad because if it really mattered where you had to be whisked away, it's going to be a challenge to just get whisked away. Calgon, take me away. So yeah, what did I do leading up to this event? I did a bit more running, not a significant lot more running for this event. I'm not talking about like doing 50-mile training weeks. I'll do maybe 18-mile training weeks. My longest run may have been, an 8-miler on a weekend. So there wasn't a lot, and I try to get in some hill work in the city in San Francisco. I'm in the financial district, and there are some hills there that I can climb. There's also a set of stairs, a couple set of stairs. Walk a few blocks away from where I'm at the Filbert Steps and Greenwich or Green. Which lead up towards the Coit Tower. So, I've done steps up and down. I've done, I've gone running from where I'm at in the financial district out to the marina, out to the pier, towards Palace of Fine Arts. To get some miles in, and that's typically on a midday. When everybody's having lunch, and also to prevent me from having to spend money on lunch because I don't need to eat if I'm good to go with fuel. I'll usually get a little bit of fuel in the morning, so I don't need to stock up on fuel in the middle of the day, especially if all I've done from wake to midday was just sit on a train, sit in a car, sit on a desk. There isn't a whole lot of energy expended at that point. So anyway, my training was sort of that, right? And it definitely was a bit more training activity than I did the previous year leading up to my first go at this event. Last year I talked about it where I had been months out of doing any sort of training, and I signed up for the event in 2017 and managed to pull a dead last finish, beating the cutoff. And I kind of credited having spent a good number of years on a NSNG lifestyle for the most part, and training my body to be fat adapted. And the microphones that I'm using have switched settings. I apologize. That'll be interesting to see what happens there. Let me see if I can figure this out. Sweet. Health IQ rated 9.6 out of 10 on Trustpilot. Customers love them. You know Ryan Hall, the fastest marathoner in American history and the only United States athlete to break the 1 hour time for the half marathon? This is what he has to say about Health IQ. Quote, "It's perfect because it's made for people like me with a healthy, active lifestyle," unquote. The lower heart rates that many pro athletes have can sometimes negatively affect insurance rates. Hall liked the fact that Health IQ used this active lifestyle as an asset in getting a good life insurance rate rather than it being a detriment. He commented that he appreciated how Health IQ made the process easy and simple for him, given how limited his time already was. Health IQ is the fastest growing life insurance company with over $5 billion in coverage. So, like saving money on your car insurance for being a good driver, Health IQ saves you money on your life insurance for living a health-conscious lifestyle. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/Ruel or mention the promo code RUEL when you talk to a Health IQ agent today. Oh well, just gonna keep rolling. So the how does it work? I'm gonna describe the course a little bit. The course starts off at a marina along Lake Chabot. I think for the first 3 miles, you're going through a paved section along the lake, and then you get into a short climb, right? And then you descend into a canyon. I'm going to pull up the course thing. So let's see. It's flat for about 2 miles, and you do a short climb. Then you do Then around mile 3, you're in this canyon, and it's flat for about a half a mile. Then you do a larger climb, which takes you up to about 1,000 feet. So from the bottom of the climb to the top of the climb, it's only about 2 miles, and then it kind of goes a steady descent. Then at about mile 7, it drops for about a mile. I mean, it drops means the descent is a little bit more a little bit more of a drop, I guess, of a grade, and then it kind of eases off. And for about 2.5 miles, it's sort of a easy kind of rolling climb and descent, mostly descent. Then for about another mile, you have a little bit of a climb, not too much, but you kind of circle around. you circle around, and at about mile, what is it? Trying to see where I'm at. At a mile 14, then you get into a nice big descent, which is basically the opposite of the big climb, back into the canyon, and then the small climb and descent back into a paved section. So at this point, it's I would have completed a loop starting at a paved section and coming back, doing the climbs and coming back to the same paved section, and essentially returning to the marina close to where the start is. And at that point, we're looking at, that's the 30K course, that's 18 miles. And at that point, that would have been the opportune time if I wanted to bail out, to bail out. And at this point in the race, I had already told myself multiple times I was done. I'm going to call it quits, but I was going through that internal dialogue of, no, don't do it, and yes, do it. No, don't do it. And the reason why I had gone through that dialogue is, when I described the beginning of the race, you go through that the paved section, and you do a short climb about 500 feet, and you come down about 500 feet into a valley, into the canyon. It was that short descent of almost a mile into the canyon where I started to feel my knee have problems, right? So it's so early, it's not even 3 miles into the thing, and my knee's already starting to have signs of problems. And last year when I did this event, I bombed down that same descent, and it was I had a lot of fun. It was wet, and I didn't want to be stuck in mud and water, and I just kind of flew down as fast as I could. This year, I took it easy because last year I too also had knee issues, and the knee issue didn't show up until later, somewhere middle of the last half, I guess, of the event, and I ended up having to wrap my knee up with an arm sleeve, and had to sort of waddle and shuffle my way through it to complete last year's. But this year, the knee started giving me problems right from the get-go. So it was because of the knee that made it difficult for me to go downhill. The uphills were it didn't bother me, but, it just really meant I had to walk the downhills. Over the course of the race, going downhill got slower and slower. And the climbs were much better for me. And I know some of you are thinking, like, how can the climbs be better for you? Well, if you think about it, if all I'm doing is hobbling my way downhill, I'm not exerting a whole lot of energy. I'm just, wincing with the pain and dealing with the psychological issues of the pain and the injury. So I'm essentially fresh. So when the climbs come, I'm going as quick as I can up the climbs. Knee starts giving me problems, but despite having the ability to go well uphill, it doesn't mean I'm going fast, right? So ordinarily you want to make time going downhill, but I can't do that with my knee causing problems. It's not a fun thing. I forget where it was. It was somewhere, I want to say mile 13, where I get to an aid station and I run into a photographer on the course who snapping pictures he's up on a hill right before the it's a really short hill right up to where the aid station's at, and there's this guy, his name's Chris Cleary. He has a telephoto lens, his camera, and he's shooting pictures, and he's kind of like a ninja on the trail because he was on a I saw him earlier that on the course he was on a mountain bike, and he was just making his way through the course, hopping off his bike real quick and taking photos of the runners. And then at this point, he appears to come out of like the bushes and starts taking pictures. And I make my way up towards where he's at, and he sees me with my knee wrapped. And we talk about it, and he says, "Yeah, it's probably your IT band." He sees it a lot because he works. He spends time at a running store. I don't know if he works there, or if he runs one, or if he owns one. But we start talking about it, and start talking about things that folks do to ordinarily recover from this type of thing. I tell him, the same thing happened to me last year, just later on in the race, but here it hit me early. And it's kind of a tradition, apparently. And he says, well, if you want to stop it from being a tradition, you got to do some things like foam rolling. So, we were just standing on the trail talking, and I needed the break. And it's funny, while we were just talking, and if Chris ever gets to hear this episode, he can tell you that, this mountain biker comes running through the course, the same direction I was running, but, and there's this, this wide trail, and if you follow me on Facebook, you could see on my cover of image, it's a wide trail, yet this mountain bike guy decides to ride in between us, and Chris and I are maybe, 3 feet from each other, and the guy just rides the bike in between us, right? And, I was talking when that happened, and Chris had this expression like, what the heck? What's up with that? And then, I shrugged like, yeah, what do you expect? These some of these mountain bike guys, are really douchebags, So, we took pictures of me leading up, and he gave me some encouraging words, and I made my way towards the aid station. And at that point, it's about 13 miles, and I'm not being told anything about how I'm not making good time. So I just kind of go on my way. Eventually get to that mile 18 point right by the start. Same thing, and all of the aid station folks, when I think back, they really helped move me forward just by being there and giving a level of support and a few words of encouragement. Because every time I got to an aid station, I never thought about quitting, and even though I got to mile 18 and I could have just turned 45 degrees and walked off the course and called it a day at 18 miles. I just got some more water in my water bottle and got an Epic bar out of my backpack, and just sort of took that time to take a breather, have a few words with the aid station people, and they were very nice. One of the gals, there were 2 women at this particular aid station, and one of them asked if anybody was going to be at the finish line to see me off. And I'm like, nope, no one's going to be there. No one's there. I mean, not see me off, but see me come in. I said, no, nobody's going to be there. And I asked them, can you guys be there? Can you guys come to see me finish? And, and they're like, yeah, we'll see you finish. We'll cheer you on. What's your name? And then I told them my name. My name is Ruel. And then she kicked me off out of the. She didn't kick me out. She's like, well, it's I hate to do it, but I gotta send you back out there. You can't stay here too long. Which is, she was right, and I was trying to soak in every moment I had at the aid station, because it just felt so good to be talking to somebody and giving myself a break. And by asking them to see me at the finish, it was sort of a psychological play to tell myself that now I can't stop. Now I have to finish because someone's going to be there to see me, right? So I went back out. Cowbells ringing. The spectators and the folks who are there to support, and the crew, they're, when they see you coming in, they're cheering, they're clapping, they're ringing cowbells. And when I go back out, at this point, it's a half marathon. to complete before I'm done. And I still have to do that short climb into the canyon and do the big climb. But once up after the big climb, there's a shorter loop called the pink section, and come back and return. And it was rough. It was rough. It was rough because now I was getting to a point where I was being told, I'm at risk of cutoffs. I'm at a point where I'm told, okay, at an aid station, this is so and so and so and so. They'll be sweeping the course. So I'm like, oh, here I am again. I'm getting to meet the sweepers. But the aid station captain said, well, don't worry. From this point on, you just got to accomplish this. And we're talking about just efficient movement, right? Just nice, efficient movement, and then you'll be fine. You should be fine. But just wanted to let you know these are the sweepers. So I got more water and ice in my water bottle at the second to the last aid station stop, and went out and attempted to be as efficient as possible with my movement. I went through the pink section, which was great this year because last year it was the worst. It had the most water and mud out of the whole course ever, and it was on the tail end. So this time around I got to see that section, and it wasn't so horrible. Never did I feel like the sweepers right on my tail, so I was, trying to be as efficient as I could. I've been in that situation where the sweepers were right up behind me. I could see them, and they're just talking, cleaning up trail markers, but no, I just kept on moving, and got to the last aid station stop, which is essentially the same aid station. Bumped into Chris again, the photographer, and he was surprised to see me back out there. Because the first time he ran into me, I clearly was battling an injury. So to see me again was like, what in the world, But yeah, I told him, yeah, I'm an idiot like that. I figured, yes, it hurts, but I figured if I just stay out here long enough, it'll get numb. Something, real dumb thing to say. And the aid station captain said, when he looked at how I had my knee wrapped up with my arm sleeve, he just made sure that I didn't have it too tight, and it wasn't tight at all. I think having something just kind of wrapped around my knee was enough to make me feel like, okay, I'm going to be okay. And so I, at that point, just really, really trying. At the last aid station stop, I asked, am I still in the game? He's like, yeah, you're still in the game. So good. So I just got more water and made my way towards the gradual climb, and then a nice descent, which was pretty brutal. The terrain is pretty rough, and every little step was just brutal on my knee. And I knew that once I got back onto the paved section, I could make better time. So I was just really looking forward to that paved section. And but I realized late in the game, I wish I learned this about me earlier in the race, was that even though it was painful going downhill, it was just painful going downhill. I need to remind myself I still have two legs, and the only thing that was a problem was that it was painful. So later in this race, before I got back to the paved section, I just decided to the hell with the downhill pain and just grunt my way down. Most of the time I would sort of be ginger about
steps that caused the pain. But then at this point, I just let myself just go, let my legs do what it could, and did my best to block out that pain. And if I had to like grunt and scream and yell as I went downhill, then I was grunting, screaming, and yelling. Who cares? As long as I was moving faster. So I learned that later about me in this race, and started doing that. Just saying F it, and kind of screamed and every time it got really bad. And then when I got back onto the Babe section, I was moving, and I kept myself from looking at my watch. And about a mile leading up to the finish, I checked it, and I knew that I needed to be through the finish by 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And by the time I finally checked my watch, that was 4 minutes, I think, or something, past 5. I'm like, yeah, I didn't make the cutoff. But that didn't stop me from running the paved section through the finish as much as I was able to run. At that point, it was more arm movement to help keep my feet moving. I was in pretty bad shape, and I was just kind of grunting my way through. At this point, not so much because of the pain and not because I'm so exhausted. It's just that swinging my arms faster and grunting along the way just made me feel like, I could make it. It was something that I had to do. I don't know if it had to do with my arm swings had to help my legs along, and if the grunting helped my breathing along. But I was going to just keep chugging along. Got through. I could see the finish. I could see the finishing arch. Cowbells and claps, and people cheering me through. I already realized that I didn't meet the cutoff, but people were still there to see me finish. People were still there to cheer me on. One of the gals from the aid station who said that she'd see me off was there, and she was cheering me on, saying my name, and took some pictures. So she's never ever going to listen to this podcast, but if she hears this story and she knows and she remembers me, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for that. That was that little bit of support meant a whole lot. And got through. At that point, the finishing arch doesn't have the timing plate, the timing reader anymore, so it's just me, and there is still a clock, and there's still some time recorded. And even though I didn't meet the 8.5 hour cutoff, I was still given the dead last finish designation because I finished the course. I finished the course, just not in a time that, I don't know. That gives me sort of back to back dead last finishes at this event. One of the volunteers or race folks said, "Yeah, I'm the defending champ," and it was funny. I knew at some point in the run that I said it would be nice to beat cutoff again, but if I don't, screw it. I'm going to finish the course. I'm going to complete the 50K. And it meant a lot to finish this 50K because, I had 3 50Ks scheduled last year, and when I finished Redtail Ridge last year, it was awesome. And then I had the Diablo Trails that year, and I had the Berkeley Trail, and none of them I finished. I couldn't finish the 50K. One, I didn't meet cutoff, I think at mile 9, so I had to settle for the half marathon for that. And then the other, I was, right up with the sweepers. Me and the sweepers got stopped by a herd of cows, got charged by one of the cows. So it ate up a lot of time on top of already being with the sweepers. And then when I got my second wind, I guess, in that particular event, and I told myself I'm just going to give it a go. I'm going to finish the 50K anyways, even despite the cutoff. I got lost. So like 26 miles into it, and I got off course and ended up getting picked up. I contacted the race folks. I got picked up, brought back to the start. So, I was 1 for 3 last year, and completing this 50K this year, to me, was good. It was good to get it done. That was the race. That was the event. After the everyone at the event at Inside Trail Racing is wonderful. The volunteers are fantastic. I finished and folks were already offering me soup and something to eat. There was a guy, Robert Alexander. He was there to do sort of massage therapy type stuff, and I got to spend some time with him. It was one of the volunteers suggested, or made the recommendation, if I wanted to spend some time, because I had issues with my knee. I said, yeah, what the heck, why not? I kind of brushed Robert off first, thinking like, well, I really need to get home because I have my family I want to get back to. And then he convinced me to stay to get myself checked out. So he worked on my knee. He confirmed it was the IT band that was giving me problems, and he kind of described how that all worked out, where when it's tight, how the IT band impacts the knee. So that was that, and so it was neat getting some work done. I was laying on his table, all filthy and whatnot. He had me covered in a blanket too, because it was pretty cold, and I'd just be shivering myself off. I went in for 20 minutes, and then I ended up taking 30 minutes of his time. But I told him, I don't ordinarily get any sort of massage therapy done anyways, so over the course of my life, I can prorate the cost of this. It only ended up being $60 for the 30 minutes. But I spent some time with Robert, and he cracked my back, which was fantastic. I've been able to crack my back on my own once in a while, by just sort of doing certain postures on the floor, but he did the whole like twist my legs this way, my arm this way, and then breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and crack. Then do the other direction, not so much, and check, see if my one leg is shorter than the other, type of deal, and tug on my ankles and tug on my legs, just all of that stuff. It was a bit of a treat, and the conversation with Robert was wonderful too. We find that we're kind of aligned when it comes to diet and nutrition, and our views of medicine and conventional medicine and doctors. Our views are aligned, and our views are aligned with how there are other ways to fuel and nourish your body, and there are other ways to heal your body as well. So it was good, and I told him, you know what, I have a podcast, I'm going to give you a mention, and so he was even open to being on the podcast, and maybe he'll do that. That's Robert Alexander. His card says Head to Toe Pain Go. He doesn't have a website apparently, but he's on the web somewhere. So Head to Toe Pain Go, Masterful Body Therapy, Deep Tissue Medical Qigong, more. In calls, out calls, home or office. Best massage in the galaxy, his card says. Robert Alexander. And his title is The Honcho. You know what? I'll put some of his contact info in the show notes, hopefully. And if anybody's interested, who this guy is, feel free to reach out to him. But I wanted to give him a shout out. So that's that. I have to wrap up. I gave myself notes on kind of what to talk about, but I'm just going to go with what I've got so far. Also want to give a shout out again to Chris Cleary, who was the photographer, one of the photographers at the event, and Chris is at the treadmill, yeah. So I want to give. That's my daughter in the background. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I missed that I'll probably have to just kind of try and bring up on other episodes. Things that help me. What are you doing? Yeah. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Okay. Can you say, that's a wrap?
That's a wrap.
Can you say, hug your friends?
Hug my friends.
Hug your family?
Hug my family.
Eat something delicious?
Eat something delicious.
And go run.
Go run.
Something. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.